Hi, and welcome to April 2020 Patreon rewards video. So just to give you a little bit of an update, as of the time of this recording, there's the whole coronavirus thing. Everybody's shut down. The studio, I'm working from home remotely. I'm still working on the show, still doing storyboards. But I am also going to be going on hiatus this month. So I just thought I'd put that out there, but I am working from home. And the show is still being produced. The other thing is that I just finished up Lent. So this video is being recorded right after Good Friday, right before Easter. So it's like on the Saturday in between both these things. So one of the things that I talked about last month was that I was going to be drawing some religious stuff for this month. So that's what the bulk of the rewards and the drawings are going to be. That isn't necessarily mean that there isn't something else I'm going to be talking. I'm going to be talking about colored inks because I've done a lot of colored ink work or experimentation. So I'm going to be talking about that if you want to know a little bit more about colored inks and what I think about them, and I'll show them to you and everything. So that's what we've got in store, and I'm going to be talking about the rewards right now. So in case you wanted to hear, and who won the postcard this month. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to show you is this drawing here. So last month I showed you the image of this Jesus that I had drawn, and this is for this purpose. I was going to draw this image here. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about religion. And just to let you know, I'm not very comfortable talking about it here publicly about my faith and stuff like that. And one of the reasons why I'm not very comfortable talking about it is because there's a whole lot of prejudice, a whole lot of bigotry when it comes to Catholicism, when it comes to Christianity. There's a lot of bigotry out there, and so whenever you talk about it, whenever you express your faith in any way, you often get attacked. You get put down. It comes with a lot of prejudice. A lot of it comes from just miseducation, being told negative things about this stuff, always being shown the worst, right? Never actually being shown that there's anything good in it, and that sort of thing. So what you end up getting is a kind of a skewed view of this faith, this religion and stuff like that. So because of that, and because I'm not there to try to I don't want to be trying to defend myself in any way right now. I just want to talk plainly, as if there isn't this bias, there isn't this prejudice, there isn't this bigotry. And that's the other thing. The irony is, of course, that when I say these words, bigotry, when I say bias, they are associated with Catholicism and Christianity and things like that. And that is the very nature of the bias and the prejudice. That's where it comes from. It's because it's being... It's a huge mess. It's all this misinformation, misunderstanding, and it's just... So I understand that it's loaded. Like what I'm going to be talking about is a very loaded subject. So please bear with me. Okay. Funnily enough, like this particular picture in this particular passage, this quote that I put down here in this one, it says, "Do not imagine that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I have come to bring a sword, not peace." So this is actually something that Jesus is quoted saying in the Gospel of Matthew, because Jesus is controversial, and he's going to, and anybody who believes in him is that sort of thing. He basically said, he's basically saying here that he was going to cause division, like the fact that Some people would believe in him, some people wouldn't, and they would be mocked and all this. It's the exact same. This is what I'm talking about. Like, I mean, he even said it himself. So here's the thing. These drawings that I did, it says not a hippie on it. And the reason why I made these, and I have passages like this one, is because oftentimes in media, on TV, in cartoons, when people talk about Jesus, they often talk about him as if he was a peace and love hippie. When you read what he said, he was more like a loving parent, in that a father or a mother, when reprimanding a child, they love the child, so they don't, for example, want them to like play in the street, and they would get mad if they were playing in a busy street because they could get killed, and the child would be very upset and feel unloved because he didn't get to do what he wanted. Well, Jesus is a loving person in that way, where he would go and tell you where he didn't think things were, you're doing something that you ought to, and then and it's not like he was being nice about it. Sometimes he wouldn't be nice about it. He would actually be quite blunt, and he wouldn't be, it's all right, dude, all right, And so the problem is that I always think, when I look at representations of Jesus, often on TV and cartoons, that he's always being misrepresented as this, hey man, I'm just Jesus, everything is cool, everybody's all right, that sort of thing. And it's kind of like, it irks me, because that's really not what he's like, or when you read what he says and what he does and how he acts. So I thought I'd do these drawings where I would show you what he would say when he said certain things that are very uncharacteristic of what people tend to represent him as, right? And that was my point for these drawings. So this one, for example, again, I imagine that I have. Did you imagine that I came for peace? No, I came to bring a sword, not peace. He was also not the type of person who was really into the hippie, peace and love, free sex kind of a thing. Again, he's not a hippie. You have heard that it is said, "Thou shalt not commit adultery." But I tell you that he who casts his eye on a woman so as to lust after her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. He set the bar really high as far as purity of heart. So it's not something that that he was advocating, just kind of being kind of a free love kind of a person. When it comes, and by free love I mean free sex. I don't mean or free lust. The word love is often put in there to make it sound a little bit better than what it is, right? So the point is that I've got all these, I've got a lot of these images. I have a lot of these quotes with the image of Jesus in it, saying "not a hippie," and just so that I could make the point, so that you could read what he had to say and then see how he isn't this stereotype of a character that is often portrayed in popular media today, where it's not really, it's just a really misrepresentational version of Jesus. And it wouldn't be a bad idea to actually read what he said, rather than just see some stereotype of what people think he is. So one of the reasons I did these images is so that you could read some of those passages that completely contradict this notion. And that was the only purpose for these images. The second image I've got here of Jesus, it says, "Behold, I make all things new," from Book of Revelations. And the idea here that I was going for was So I read a lot of comic books, and I love reading superhero comics. And the thing about superhero comics is often that you see somebody like Superman after fighting Doomsday or Darkseid or Mongol or somebody, he gets taken down hard, right? And sometimes he just goes down and he's all beaten to a pulp, sort of thing. And it's a very harrowing thing, but he he's all bloody and messed up and beat up, and then that same character would just get up out of the rubble of wherever he is, and he's all trashed, but he'll get up, and you see like images of these guys just determined, ready to keep on fighting. This is my version of Jesus doing that. Often we see him carrying the cross and he looks like he's so sad. And, oh, look at me suffer. And that's good for what that is. I mean, the purpose of images like that is to show you that it wasn't easy, that it hurt, that he understands your pain, right? That's the point. The point of my drawing here is not that. My point is that in spite of all of that, he's going to be heroic about it. He's going to be determined, and he's going to fight the fight in spite of his getting put down. So this is my version of that, where he's completely trashed. His body is full of scars, and he's bleeding, but he's determined. Like, he's got this determined face. He keeps going. Behold, I make all things new. This is how I'm going to do it. And he's determined to go through with it in spite of the fact that he's completely trashed. And that's the point of this image. I just thought that I needed to get that out of my system. All right, and then the third image that I have here, and this is still a work in progress. I haven't finished this one. In fact, this drawing I am very, very unhappy with right now. I am not happy with it at all. I don't even know if I will be happy with it even when I'm done with it. This is called New Adam, New Eve. So here we have Eve, here we have Adam. And they're in shadow because they fell from grace. And from them we have original sin, right? And then we have the new Adam and the new Eve. Jesus being the new Adam who reversed Adam's rejection of God's will. And we have Mary who reversed Eve's rejection of God's will. So her fiat, yes, to work with God, to give birth to the Messiah. And then Jesus, his yes to go and die on the cross, reverses, being both man and woman, reversed the sin of Adam and Eve. So this is my point. The point of this drawing is we've got Adam here, we got Eve here, and then they're walking forward, and they're both happy, and they're both joyful, and they're moving forward to freedom, to salvation, right? And it isn't a sad thing. Like, oftentimes we see Jesus looking somber and sad and depressed, and Mary looking somber, and like the saints are almost always just blank, like I don't understand. Like, if it's supposed to be joy, you have this joy in you, so they're happy. Like, I want to make them happy looking. Like, hey, this is great, you know. And so Mary is just looking just happy and joyful, and so is, and Jesus is like, yay, all right, let's go. And he's taking his mom by the hand, and they're just full of joy and happiness, and it's okay, and everything's okay. That was the idea behind the picture, and maybe this is still a good idea. The representation is still good, and like I said, it's a work in progress. I still, the thing that's left for me to do is I want to do self-ink lines, so this isn't black line, so it looks a little bit, so there isn't any lines in here inside any of these figures. There won't be any lines. It'll feel a little bit more painterly that way. But I don't know if I like it. I don't know if I like the color. I don't know if I like the texture. I don't know if I like the cartoony nature of it. It seemed like a good idea at the time when I was doing it. I'll finish the drawing and I'll just leave it for what it is. But I'm not sure if I like it. Just thought I'd throw that out there. I'm not really sure if I like what I did. Also, oh man, I gotta fix this hand because it looks like her thumb is in the wrong place. But anyway, I'll finish it, but I don't know if I am happy with it. Okay, so I just thought I'd share some sketches here. This is the sketches in my sketchbook for that Adam and Eve one. I have another idea for a scourging scene of Jesus being scourged, but it's going to be a little bit more modern. They're going to be holding up things here. And the idea is that you are being invited in by this guy over here. He's like, hey, come on in. Come and join the fun, where he's getting scourged over here. This is something that I wish I had this finished drawing, because I don't know when I'm going to ever finish it, but the idea is that it's kind of the same thing that I was talking about, where you see on TV, on Netflix, there's shows kind of making fun of Jesus, and there's animated cartoons that have Christ in it, and you know, they make fun of him. And the idea here is that it wasn't the first time that Jesus was mocked and made fun of. It happened to him by the Romans did it. Like that's what the crown of thorns was. They put a crown of thorns on him. They put one of the Roman red cloaks on him, and they mocked him. And that mocking is still happening. The mocking has never stopped. Like it continues to happen. And then we're asked as the audience, when we watch these shows, when we watch these cartoons, when we watch these things, to join in, right? That's the come on. So I'm gonna draw this guy saying, "Come on in over here," like, and they're gonna mock him here. They're gonna mock him while they're beating him and scourging him, and he's got the crown. So it's a combination of a lot of things, because he got scourged and then he got crowned, or was it he got crowned and then he got scourged? But it didn't happen all at once. But the idea is that the mocking and the scourging and the making fun of Jesus is still happening now. It's just in a modern way. So I wanted to show you in my drawing, however I'm going to show it to you when I'm finished, what it is that we're still participating in that mocking. And here's the sketches for that other drawing that I just showed you, and it's this is before I decided to go really cartoony with it. And then I did do some drawing some sketches of this was on the metro, of just some faces, just to take a slight break of all the religious stuff. It was pretty heavy stuff, as you could tell. This was my attempt to just draw something with a brush without any underdrawing or anything. It's kind of ugly, but 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 it's one of those things where I saw somebody doing it and I'm like, I'm gonna try something. The problem with doing something like this without constructing it, I have a hard time deciding what to draw, and what I end up drawing is something really boring that's not all that interesting to me. So I like to tend to plan out what I want to draw, and just doodling for the sake of doodling is just, it ends up being nothing. This is for the Adam and Eve, new Adam, new Eve drawing. Just trying to come up with an interesting face design for Jesus that didn't look like he was super thin. I kind of wanted him to look a little bit more ethnic, a little bit more Jewish, but also heroic and healthy instead of anemic. So, because he was a carpenter, so he had muscles. He worked out and he walked. He walked everywhere. So, I kind of wanted a little bit of all that stuff. I don't know if I captured it or not, but that was my intent, and that's what these sketches were for. And here we have a little bit of just trying to figure out the shapes for Mary, so that I could clothe her, and I went very traditional with the white and the yellow, blue look. All right, so let's talk about colored inks. So for my birthday, for my very, very, very late birthday, a late birthday present, my parents got me this set of colored inks, which is really great. It's amazing. There's just beautiful colors. So I couldn't wait to get started, and they sat on my they sat over here on my shelf for maybe 2 weeks before I actually got to them. Well, my very first experimentation with them was this. Now this is watercolor, and I did this a long time ago. I think I may have shared this tomato before, I don't know. But this is my very first experimentation with this. And here's me trying out with a quill the lines and see what they would look like. So the method that I used was very similar to watercolor. So these are ink. This is an ink. This drawing here is an ink wash. And so what I did was, again, very similar to watercolor. But the difference is that I would take these and I would put a little. They have these little droppers, and I would take the droppers and I would drop a little bit of the ink in one of these little palettes here, just boop boop, and then I would put water in there, and then I would wash. And it would give me like a consistency similar to watercolor. And what I did was I would then layer. I would actually take the palette and then mix the colors. If I didn't have the right color, or I wanted the right color, I would mix the colors in here. And then I would use the ink almost like watercolor. The thing about these colored inks is that the colored inks don't react like watercolor. They stain much, much more, and they don't lift off as easily with water. Like even when I had a paper towel and I would like try to wipe it off. Look at this thing, it's so thick with ink. When I would wipe it off, and because I would overdo it, it would stain a lot more. It's crazy how much more potent the inks are than watercolor. But the cool thing about it is that you can make lines. You could actually dip a crow quill pen like this one in the and make actual colored lines, which I thought was really cool. That's one of my favorite parts about it. And the other thing about it is that the colored inks are extremely vibrant. The colors are extremely vibrant, so it's kind of like almost being able to color in Copic markers, but with much more control. So I love that about it. The other thing is that they don't, once they lay down, they're permanent. So when you wet the ink again, they won't lift. In watercolor, when you reapply water, you could lift the watercolor paper, the paint off with the water. With inks, that did not happen. The issue that I had was trying to figure out how to apply what, when, the process, like putting in the darks and things like that. I just how to work with the inks, with the permanency of the inks. Was the tricky part for me, and this didn't quite turn out the way I'd like, in part because I didn't really think about I didn't mix the right paints the way that I wanted it to. But in general, I think that this came out okay. I was going to use some inks on this sketch and never got around to it. So what I'm actually going to end up doing with this drawing is I'm going to use the inks and watercolor together to see how they mix. Because I know that for a fact, once I put down a line, I'm going to probably just do colored lines on a lot of this stuff. And then I'm going to apply watercolor on top. And I know for a fact that the lines will not lift, which is a problem that I've always had doing some of the stuff with watercolor, is that I could do the exterior lines like this, but I couldn't do any interior lines without ruining whatever I'm going to use for the interior lines, getting messed up with the water. They would run, or not having the right colors to go with what I wanted to do. But now that I have the inks, I think I'll be able to do it better. Like those two things are not gonna be an issue. But for sure, I like the vibrancy of the colors. Which brings me to this month's postcard. This month's postcard is done entirely with ink, and I absolutely 100% did a completely different method than I did in my first experiment. I actually did do what I wanted to do, which was I kind of did all the darks first, and then I added color on top. And as you can see in both the digital and this final version, the colors came out extremely rich, and I love the way it looks, and it almost looks like a marker drawing, but it's actually ink. So this month's postcard is going to go to Craig K. Craig, you won like 2 months ago or something. Well, you won again. So this is yet another one. I think you've won like 3 or 4 postcards already. And Craig is a bronze level patron. So it's not like his name is in the drawing a ton. So he's just getting extremely lucky on the random name picker. So congratulations again, Craig K. Another thing really quick to talk about inks. The inks, the difference between inking, using the inks and using the watercolors is that, you know, like I said, you put the drop of ink in here, and then maybe you wet it down with some water, and then you work with it. But the problem is that ink is not watercolor, and so the ink stains the heck out of these palettes. Like it doesn't come off. Like if it gets too dry, you can't just like leave it. Like a lot of the time, I could leave watercolor on a palette overnight and have it dry out, and then just reactivate it with water, and then just keep working with it. But with the ink, if it dries out, it's there. There's no way to pick it up. It's just going to be stuck on there. So one of the things that I had issues with was the amount of time that you had to work with the inks. Once you put it down, you got to get it done quick before the inks end up drying and start ruining your palettes. So you got to be really careful and really fast when you're working with these inks, and you're constantly washing and making sure that the inks aren't going to be staining everything. So on the one hand, I love the results. On the other hand, I hate having to working with all the mess of upkeep and working with the washes and things like that. So, and the other thing is that it's not portable. Like using the inks is not portable. I can't just take it anywhere and work with a bottle of ink. I can't go downstairs. I can't go, and I mean, I have to work in a very specific environment with all the stuff in front of me so I could get it done. With watercolor, I could get a water brush and get my palette and go anywhere, and I could just do whatever, whenever, however fast I want. And I could put them away really quick. It's not a big deal. But with the inks, it is a big deal. Again, I love the results, but it is a lot more work to work with the inks. So now I'm going to have to try to figure out a way to work with the inks and watercolor at the same time, so that I can get a little bit the best of both worlds, because I don't want to have them go to waste, because I love the results. So we'll see how that goes, and then I'll talk about it. My next experimentations will be of that. All right, well, thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry about all the religious stuff. Lent is almost, well, by next month, everything will be over. Holy Week will be over. Everything, we've gone through Easter and everything. And then we'll go back to my regularly scheduled artwork that I tend to do. And because I'm going to be going on hiatus, I might be able to get a few more personal stuff done than I would have otherwise. And that's it from me. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you next time. All right, bye.